School's closed. Yes. Every kid's favorite words growing up. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Fervent 4. Did you know that only 4% of businesses ever cross the annual $1 million revenue mark? I'm Zack Miller, author of Anomaly. And with me today, I have my co-host, Tim Ryan, lead man at startwheel.org. Thank you so much for joining us. The Fervent 4 is a weekly show every Thursday at 11 a.m. dedicated to sharing insights into growing a world-class business no matter the climate. Redemption is the action of regaining or gaining possession of something. To many, 2020 screams the word redemption. Please welcome Joe Bucci, Department Chair for Undergraduate Business Programs at Regent University, to the show.
Hey.
Good morning. Nice to see you, Joe.
Thank you for that applause. Really, it's unnecessary.
So, Joe, what does the word redemption? I know redemption is a word that was in your book,
Right.
In the title, but when you hear the word redemption, how do you define it?
Well, when I was in college, I had an experience where I made a commitment of faith. I gave my life to Jesus Christ. So I understood redemption from a spiritual perspective. And then as a person who grew up in a household with kind of a broken family, had some kind of negative knucklehead habits that I would repeat all across my business career and the rest of my life to this point, made plenty of mistakes and would oftentimes have a mentor or someone come by to kind of coach me and help me or put me on the right path. Always felt that I was getting the opportunity to get a second chance to try again. So from a more of an applied perspective, and took that into my doctoral work, where I looked at, being an HR guy, I've got 20 years of human resource background in an agency and also in a corporate setting. I said, the question is, where is redemption in the management literature? Just general, not from a spiritual, not from a, I'm a Christian and I'm writing about redemption perspective. So from an HR point of view, looked at it and I said, well, okay, if I've got 10 people reporting to me, and one of them is a knucklehead like I was, and I, continue to work with that person and try and help that person be successful, is that redemption? Well, in a sense it is. They're getting another chance, but it's really discipline. It's really corporate discipline. If you don't fix this, and you lose your job, you're done. But what happens if a person fails on the job, is terminated for cause, and then is rehired? Why would they be rehired? Union, a grievance, last chance agreement. Maybe they got into a drug program, employee assistance program. Sorry, this person is calling me, and I have to tell them that I'm not available. But anyway, whatever happened, so now all of a sudden you get them back, or your boss, you terminate somebody, and then the company lawyer comes to you and says, well, we did this wrong, so we have to rehire the guy. So now you have a problem because the person screwed up. It's not like you bring somebody in new. When you bring somebody in new, you don't know their problems. You're hoping you pick the best person, trying to help them be successful. But now you're bringing somebody in that their problems. And so you now have to act redemptively if they're going to be successful. And I interviewed 12 leaders from 10 organizations that did that and came up with some general principles that seem to be consistent in their approach. And now I'm always looking for this. I look for it in business. I look for it in articles. I get these news feeds where I look for the word redemption. And these are exciting stories. They're exciting to me. A person turns their life around. Robert Downey Jr. No one would hire the guy. He was a loser. He was, a screw up. He was doing drugs. They had to pay a retainer, I think, to be on a movie set. In other words, we're not going to pay you unless you fulfill all your contract obligations. And Jon Favreau said, no, we've got to use him. He's Iron Man. We got to use this guy. Someone went to bat for him. And now, we look at that and we say it's genius. But it wasn't genius. It was someone taking that risk, someone being that intercessor, that I'd say that Jesus type of figure who redeemed Robert Downey Jr., Marv Albert. I've got tons of those stories that we see, and it's different than reputation management, right? We were talking before we came on the air about this broadcaster who said something inappropriate on the air, and now is going through broadcast redemption, in a sense. But it's really reputation management. Okay, I've got to meet with the people that I insulted, and I've got to, blah blah blah. Giving a person an opportunity, a person who was on drugs, people who go for jobs and they've been, convicted of a crime. If you've been convicted, you have to put that on your application, right? So the Commonwealth says, well, let's take that off the application. So that at least I can get in the door, because you won't even let me in the door if you see that, right? So it's giving people that opportunity because they're grateful for it. And for some of them, it turns their life around. And I interview these people all the time. I'm trying to do a second book, which I really want to position. My first one ended up being positioned as an academic book. I'm trying to do a second book called Redemption, Inc., where we look at organizations that are doing this, the teen challenges and the ministries, the prison ministries that are taking people out of prison and teaching them things. This guy, Hope for Prisoners, was just on the news a couple of weeks back with President Trump recognizing this guy. And these people who are doing the hard work of helping somebody get their life organized and back together. So now we need to hire them. Right? We need to give them that chance, because that's redemption. That's now saying my life, I can be valuable again. So sorry for the long rant there, but it's a big deal to me. Obviously, you see that.
No worries. When I had you on the show on ABC, we had to do short, succinct. Right. Now we got not that I can speak today, but now I'm like, let's go long. Be there. So the word redemption, when you think about 2020, I think a lot of businesses, a lot of people are really looking at redemption as maybe a word that they're not using, but thinking about things that that word describes. I think the folks that are very gritty and resilient and are hoping and working towards redemption is something that when I was working on just that quick little headline, it was like, okay, like this word is powerful for 2020. And so walk us through what 2020 has looked like for you. I mean, you had lesson plans that you had done before. You had a plan of action of what you wanted to do. Like, how did March of 2020 kind of throw in the spoon? What is that line? Throwing a fork into the road or whatever to really mess things up?
Wrench in the works or That's something like that. Yeah, something.
Never ask me to repeat it.
Well, for us, it wasn't that bad a transition because Regent's undergrad program built on a platform online. We were online before we were on campus. We had a graduate program before we had an undergraduate program. So we've done everything kind of reverse. So for us, it wasn't that hard in terms of, logistics.
Is that because you guys were already, I just want to get confirmation. So your undergraduate and graduate programs were already doing things online already?
Everything's built on the online platform. We have a strong learning management system that we use. And we have, of our 5,000 undergraduate students, fully 2/3 of them are online. So, and our students, we teach them it's fairly seamless, whether they're on campus, full traditional, or whether they're meeting once a week on campus and the rest is online, or whether they're fully online. It's fairly seamless. We try and make it that way. We have gone back and made some adjustments to some of the online courses because we're finding out from our research that the average age of the student on campus is 20. The average age of the student online is 37. And that person's a female who has maybe children at home. And so their ability to deliver, assignments and things like that is not going to be the same as a student who's, in the dorms and supposed to be working on that kind of stuff. So we've had to make some adjustments there, but we were fairly seamless in our transition with our students. You tried to help them through the disappointment of not walking and that kind of stuff. But I agree with you that, I've heard from a lot of people, 2020 is like the year from hell. Anything that could go wrong is going wrong in 2020. And I think, what we need to do is we need to tell stories of redemption. So I think the pilot this morning, Inside Business, had something about 40 businesses that started during the pandemic. 40.
Yeah, but you know what? So I agree with what you're saying. But where has that been? That story is just a sprinkle in there, right? And so like we're sprinkled with, we're doused with so much negativity and this other thing. It's like, oh my goodness, that must mean everyone is doing this bad thing. It's like, well, what took you 7 months to write a story that has positive impact into things? And so that ticks me off as a guy who went to journalism school that thinks very positively about businesses. Like, here's the context word that we're getting at, right? It's like, tell me the real, like, seems like other businesses are doing fine. I read an article the other day that said like in and out, maybe it's up 4% year to year. I was talking to a local business owner that's up 18% year to year, but we don't hear those stories. Maybe that person doesn't want to tell that story, but it's like positive.
Yeah, positive. I don't know why they're not out there, but I agree. It's been me talking to myself, me talking to my wife. She's tired of that. And my father-in-law, when we were cooped up, my father-in-law owned his own business. Give the business person the parameters and unleash them. Don't tell them what they can't do. Tell them this is how you have to do this. Like, we're open. We talked again before we started online. We've been open since August 24th, and we're doing the mass, and we're working safely, and everybody's working within it. Here I am, grown up a rebellious kid, but I'm going to follow the rules so that we meet the requirements, and we want to be effective within this environment. And a business person, just tell me what the rules are and I will do it. You tell me I can't meet indoors, so I'm going to be setting up in the parking lot. I'm going to do business because that's what I do, and I will overcome. That's what entrepreneurs do. They overcome these obstacles. So give them the parameters and set them loose. Don't say, well, you can't do this and you can't do that and you can't. Like you said, the negativity is stifling, and we need to release that. So we're trying to do some of that on our end. We, a couple of weeks ago, got together with some of our entrepreneur types and said, hey, what can we do for some new business? So we put together a couple programs that we're doing, kind of a test pilot programs. We're doing little. We've got a group of folks that meet for a Bible study, and then they do business pitches, and we have people come in. We talk to them about their business, a little Shark Tanky type of thing. And we've been starting to do these programs, like 6 no-cost things you can do to market your business. Who knows about Google My Business and Yelp and things, just simple things that they can do to kind of jumpstart again. We're doing what we can do to encourage people, take off the negativity, believe that you can be successful. Let's go. Let's get on here.
Yeah, you brought up a couple really interesting points that I'd like to dive into a little bit deeper. So one, in terms of redemption or getting that second chance, and then you combine that with COVID in 2020. So mixed with the fact that I think that one of the areas in this region that we really have to change the mindset with is accepting failure and giving people that second chance and supporting them. I mean, if you're failing, then you're not trying. Right. So now we're in a situation here where we have a region that isn't so kind to people that have failed. In the year 2020, where businesses have been forced to close their doors because of COVID, how would you suggest or recommend that we take advantage of this opportunity, make it a positive, so that when people go back into business, start with a new idea, changing the culture and supporting those people when they take another bite at the apple, so to speak?
Well, let me tell you what the data says, all right? I can quote data. There was a survey that was done across the state of Texas over 20 years. 2.5 million businesses were assessed, tracked over a period of time. And so they tracked the failures there, and 71% of the people who failed never tried again. of the people who tried again, they were more successful the second time. And if they tried a third time, they were even more successful. So this changed my thinking, Tim, in a couple of ways. Number one, we do talk about failure as part of entrepreneurship. You're going to fail. I mean, I show my students stories all the time of people who fail, not just the Edison stories, but I think the chef, I can't remember his name, and a number of people who have, started a business and they failed. And you show them that to encourage them. But it also changed my thinking because, again, we have this 71% of people who failed, never tried again. And I, on the one hand, we need to encourage people to try again, but on the other hand, we need to help people with closure. Okay, that sucks. It sucks to fail. And some people will carry that with them and they will shy away from that. So I agree with you that there needs to be this idea that, and not blaming, not saying, well, it's COVID's fault or this, we failed. Let's do a hot wash, they say in the military, right? Let's look at what happened. If we were to try again, what might we do differently? Use it as a quality experience. We're not going to blame someone. We're not going to get down on ourselves. I failed. I was a church planter. I planted a couple churches, and that's what I wanted to do in my whole life. I got saved when I was in college, and then I'm going to be in the ministry, professional ministry. And I'm going to plant this church. And I'm 3 years into this first plant. My wife comes to me and says, I don't know about you, but I hate this. I hate this, and I'm leaving. Okay. All right. Well, I guess that's not really something I want to keep doing, right? So you have to say, okay, well, what are my priorities here? What's important? And you overcome that. You still have that kind of pain there because you think, boy, what happened? What could have happened? I was fortunate that 25 years later, I was able to go back. Actually, on the 25th anniversary of the church, I was able to go back. It's still there. It took off. But examining failure as part of loss, but maybe. I know this is not, like an AA meeting or something like that. I was a business owner and I failed. Okay, well, we appreciate that you tried and we value your contribution. What you did, you affected lives, and whether you continue to do that or not, that's valuable. And I want you to talk to my students. Let them come and talk to my students because failure is part of the experience. However, we also, if you still got that thing burning inside of you, maybe there's something you can do with that. It just didn't fit there, right? It fit here. So what I don't think I'm a different person. I've learned a lot since then, and I can use my experiences here. So how can we take that and turn it into a positive? And then also, how can we take those people who are struggling, who hit that wall, and encourage them, hey, let's reboot. Let's try something. Right. What was it about that took you down that path? I know a guy, construction guy, part of our group. He failed big time and bankruptcy and couldn't get his license back. And through restoration, redemption, working with other people, he's back on top. He's building big houses again. Realized the only way I'm going to be successful is I got to go visit those demons. I got to pay that money back. Right. You know what? He's paying the money back.
That's great.
So that's a hard thing. We have to be honest about it. And I mean, I'm not answering your question. I'm just basically saying, yeah, it's a problem. Yeah. But if the culture embraces innovation, part of an innovative culture is trying things that don't work, and saying, wow, hey, now we know what not to do. Let's learn what may work,
Yeah, and one thing that's really interesting, so I've been fortunate enough, I'm dipping my toe in the angel investing world, and so I'm connected with Jason Calacanis. He was the third person to invest in Uber, and he's also an angel investor in Robinhood and the meditation app Calm, to name a couple. So he's extremely successful, and one of the things that's really that I love what he does is that he understands that failure is a part of this. And if a company that he invests in fails, he just has one stipulation. And that is, if you start another business, I want to be the first person that you call so that I have the opportunity to invest in you. And that is something that needs to be carried and echoed throughout the entire community.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's settle up, let's settle up with those folks
Yep.
who believed in us. And, so we know that some loss is going to come, but let's settle up. Let's sit down. There's that, restorative justice type thing that happens. It's painful. I'd rather run away from it. I'd rather deny it. Hey, look, I screwed up and it didn't work. And you believed in me. And I want you to still believe in me. So this guy apparently has, he believes in people when he does. But let me also be honest, and let me try and repay my debt and get those things reconciled, because then that'll, I think, help with settling it and resolving that, okay, so we made mistakes, but we got through it. We're clean. Now we go on something new.
Yeah.
The Fervent 4 is powered by the Small Business Development Center, which helps local small businesses grow through counseling. If you're interested in learning more on how the SBDC can help your business, head to startwheel.org/weekly. That was a powerful comment, though. Like that, if you are someone, let's just think about this. I just ran a commercial for the first time that we had done, right? It might have failed. It might not have gone great, but I was going to try it again, right? Who knows what's going to happen? I tested it before. I think it's going to work, but I've never really done it. So you don't know. There's that unknown. But that was a powerful point. I mean, from the Jason Calacanis point, where if you fail, I want you to call me first. I mean, that's that. Like, I've always thought that people invest in people, not necessarily the idea. And I think that's what it's really going after. And it's like, we probably taught you something in this whole thing. You probably learned something through this whole experience. Why would I give on you now? Right. And so that was interesting. And actually a great story out of this is Tim got Jason Calacanis to come to our area for Start Peninsula a few years ago. And I remember Tim telling me it took like 2 years to get him here, basically. And it was something that most people probably would have thrown in the towel on. Most people probably would have quit on and saying, we're not going to get him here. We're not going to get him here. And he was persistent and went through it. And so those are all just so powerful points that I think people, I don't know. Are we as a society misled to be more negative than to be positive, to push through when things like that happen? And it's like, why is it that when someone asks you a question, it's like, hey, like, are you okay? Like, with the notion of like something negative is there. It's like, well, yeah, like, why wouldn't I be okay? It's like, are we too negative of a society? Is that what the whole like base of it is? Either of you can answer that.
Yeah, well, I think that real quick, it's just a matter of, again, everybody wants to take the elevator to the top and you have to take the stairs. And it's just this instant gratification, or it's a 5-year overnight success story.
That's great. Yeah, I remember, when Nick Foles was the MVP.
Oh, here we go. Philly fan?
Oh, sorry, Eagles fan here. But, Foles said something in his remarks toward the end about, part of what we see is we see the, Instagram images, and we see the sunshine, and we don't always see the downside of things. And that's really, our lives are enriched in the good times because we've been through challenging times. So I think, when you work with entrepreneurs, there are gritty times. And so you're accustomed to that. And that's what we do. And so I think we talked about this a little bit off camera before we started. One of the things that we really emphasize here is the value of the entrepreneur. 20% of students who graduate from universities in the United States graduate with degrees in business. So, a few years ago, we just kind of sat down and say, so what makes us different? We try to make sure they're only taking the coursework that they need to take. That's one way. So we don't make them take 2 accounting classes because they have to, because everybody does. As long as they have financial accounting, I think, unless they're going to be an accountant, that's enough. Can they read the financial statements? We want them to be engaged with other parts of the curriculum. Our assignments are designed to be practically applied assignments. We have business people who are our faculty members, adjuncts, and and professionals here. And so we look at the assignments and say, we just don't want it to be some theoretical thing. We want it to be applied. But the one thing that we really emphasize strongly is the value of the entrepreneur, the contribution that the entrepreneur makes. That this is a person who, has basically mortgaged their house and has taken the risk and has, I know one guy, he went through our school, got into a franchise business, slept in his van for 6 months so that he wouldn't have to pay his rent in his condo so he could pay his employees. So those are things you don't see, but we need to value that person's contribution. And sometimes it is messy. Sometimes it is difficult for them. And, I know we're in this, the trophy age that everybody gets a trophy, but we shouldn't also then just celebrate the guys who get the IPO, but celebrate. And this is what you're doing, Zack, and this is where you've always had your heart. Celebrate that small business, that person who's working. Hey, I want to encourage you. You can break through. You can be successful. We're going to give you tips because, they will. Many of them will.
But you know why you succeed in that? You know why you succeed when you don't take that elevator ride? It's because you learn so much more off of each of those little things, right? I was on a call before this, and someone was talking about failure. And I basically said, look, take 100 shots every single day. And that first day, go to Amazon, buy a basketball hoop, right? Buy a basketball and just start shooting every single day.
Go to local stores to buy your basketball.
Go to your local store. I was thinking as I said that, I was like, I don't even know where you could buy a local basketball hoop anymore. That's why I said Amazon. Go to Dick's. I don't know. If you can find one locally, absolutely buy one. But I don't know that you could even play it against sports in Chesapeake. There you go. Well, you go there and maybe buy a basketball hoop. But take 100 shots, right? You will learn so much every single day, right? And so it's so much more powerful to do those micro steps, in my opinion, right? Some people just want to get to the top of the elevator. It's so much more powerful, and you learn so much more by going a little bit more each and every single day.
And the data suggests that our students, when they graduate, was it 99% of all businesses or 99 people or less? I keep seeing different numbers. It used to be 97%, but now it's 99%. So the data suggests that when our students graduate, they're not just going to, I tell them, you're not just going to graduate and move into a cubicle. You're going to be in a small business, 99 people or less. So you need to be able to contribute right away. You need to know how that business works, how to help them to be effective, wear a lot of different hats. That's exciting. That, your days go by very quickly when you're in that kind of a small business dynamic environment. So we try and help them to appreciate the contribution of an entrepreneur, whether they're going to start it or not. We have a lot of them who are interested in doing that. But just to be able to say, I'm going to contribute right away. When I walk in the door, I'm going to make sure that I'm helping this business be successful.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it seems like during each of these shows, we always bring everything back to the physical fitness journey aspect of it all. But one of the things that's really interesting is that so before I spend a lot of time working with business, one of the things that I look for is their hobbies and what they do. I'm a runner, and one of the things that is interesting to me is if someone has the patience and the dedication to go through a training plan to run an event, whether if it's a 5K or a marathon, whatever the case is, if you have that dedication to do those small things every single day, no matter how monotonous they seem, then it's more likely, in my opinion, that you have the patience to be successful at business, because not every day is going to be a great day. And you have to string together a whole bunch of singles in order to put runs on the board. You're not going to hit the home run. And the thing that's so fascinating about that, and Zack can attest to this, is last weekend, Zack just completed a half Ironman. And
Wow.
that was the first time that during 6 months in training that he put all three aspects together to see what the entire outcome is going to be. And he knocked it out of the park. So congratulations.
Self-promotion. You can see over here my 5K board. and all my little awards that I've gotten. So yeah, when I was a kid, I was a runner, but I was running away from the police. I was running away. I'm serious. I'm not kidding. I would go in a store and steal something and run away. But as an adult, I have gotten back into running, and just the past couple of years. So yeah, I can relate. Only 5Ks, nothing outlandish. But
5K sounds a lot better at this point.
not a lot of people have the discipline and the tenacity to stick through that. And that's where you come up with the prototypical entrepreneur. I remember going to a entrepreneur program. We were actually at a university, used to be Glassboro, now it's called Rowan, I think, because the guy donated $100 million to them, and an engineering school. And the program was called Invention to Venture. So they were talking to these engineers who are the creative types, where business people tend to be a little bit more administrative and functional in other areas. But the engineers who are creating different solutions and saying, okay, let's take that idea and let's capitalize on it. So anyway, we're at this program, and this guy is presenting, and I think he was like director of the entrepreneur program at Drexel University. And he walks around and he says, I found out, I'm trying to fund my different business ventures, and I found out that you could get cash off a credit card. So we're all sitting there saying, okay, well, sure, okay. So then he walks around to each table and he dumps these piles of credit cards on the tables to show everybody that he had literally hundreds of credit cards that he had used to finance his business. So, we get this picture of this, this person who has such a high risk tolerance. But in a lot of cases, there are people who are lifestyle entrepreneurs. They want to break out, but they need a nudge over that, to the next level, right? I'm selling things on the side. I've got a little side hustle going on. But taking them, that's my biggest interest, is how do we get them to that next level to say, you could really do this. I had a friend, I still have a friend, who does lightscaping. So he would go to his neighbors and do the nice lights outside. So, you go to their house and the trees are lit up and all that stuff. And he kept complaining, I really want to do this. And I said, you're going to have to take a big step away from the business. So finally, when they eliminated his position, then it's sink or swim, right? Mm-hmm. We want to get them to the point where it's before then. If you have this idea, sure, test it out on the side, but why not go? Why not, step out and try it? It's going to require a little bit more. So those steps to go from lifestyle to actual, that's scary. That's sleeping in your van. That's mortgaging your house. That's,
Is that something that can be taught, though, right? Not necessarily the entrepreneurship side of that, right? I mean, maybe the question is, can entrepreneurship be taught? But I mean, that story of that person going in and testing that thing or going all in, or I remember when I interviewed Damon John, they're a part of it. His thing was like the power of broke is like always acting like you're not there yet. Like, is that something that is just like something unique and special about a person that they might have, or is that something that they can actually like really evolve into and get stronger at? Because that fear, I mean, that seems to be a big fear of unknown, right? Like the person like wants to do it, but he wants to do it if he knows that path, if you will.
Well, Henry Mintzberg, the famous strategist, said leadership, like swimming, is something that can't be taught in a classroom, right? So, we could apply the same thing to entrepreneurship. And many of the expensive entrepreneurship textbooks will say, well, but we can teach certain principles and we can teach them about financial statements and how entrepreneurs are different than managers. Yeah, okay. I think so. There's a balance between the education and the application, right? So there has to be opportunity. Just like you tell your kid when they get on a bike, you got to watch out, use the pedals. This is how it works. Now get on there and try it. So that's where the Selden Market thing is great, or those kind of, bridge programs to give people this opportunity to tool things out. Hey, let's give this a try for 6 months and let's see if it flies.
What changes though? Because the bicycle model I love. What changes for a person though in life? Because it seems like they were willing at one point to be innovative and risky and try new things, but then all of a sudden, is it just life gets in the way? Because they were willing to try things on a bike there as a kid. They were willing to get on a half pipe. They were willing to be chased after police. Oh, that was you, not me. But like, what changes though?
Well, so part of it is understanding what entrepreneurship really is. Again, data. I sound like an academic after all those years in corporate. I guess I am an academic now. But when you look at some of the data, only last data I saw, maybe 11% of all businesses are something that's never been done before, something brand new, revolutionary, iPad, iPhone, something just, and I think there's this image that's an entrepreneur. I could never do that. I have no creativity, but people keep calling me here. But really, a lot of entrepreneurship is that you, Zack? A lot of entrepreneurship, when you look at it, people will start a business because they see gaps in service and they say, well, we're just not, why aren't we doing this thing? So it's somehow providing the encouragement, but also, helping them with the risk aversion and resources so that they're willing to press through that. They read in a trade magazine something and they say, wow, we could be doing that. They're disgruntled. The person you want is that person who's disgruntled on the job. Why are you disgruntled? Oh, I think we should be doing this or that. Well, you've got a couple of options. You can talk to your boss about that, or you can go off and do it yourself. There's actually a good book. Woman wrote it, The Elegant Entrepreneur, where she kind of lays out this decision tree. I don't have it in front of me here, but I show it to my students. And is it simply a product idea that could be developed? And is that product idea, does it have enough substance to where it could be its own business? Or is it just a product that somebody could market? So it's an idea, like George Foreman, hey, if you have your ideas, call this number. Maybe it's just a product idea that you can capitalize on it there. It may not be a business idea because really a business idea is a business model, right? I mean, we're not just, okay, this is a revolutionary product. No, we have to have a business. The E-Myth tells us we need to be working on that business. That's our model, right? We've got to say, well, how are we delivering value that's different? So part of it is just seeing that what's right in front of them does have opportunity. And maybe, of that group of 100 people, it's only going to be a half dozen, hopefully more, that there's something that you can work with. But, again, how are we allowing this? How does Startwheel allow that to communicate? I mean, you're catching people who are raw. They have ideas and they're really raw and they need tools. But there are people who have tools that we're not catching or encouraging down this ramp because, maybe I've got a mortgage, I got a car payment, I've got kids in college, and yet you're miserable. So
and that's the interesting thing. So it's like one thing that we touched on this morning was the fear of failure and overcoming that fear of failure and with the whole redemption aspect of it. But the other thing that in terms that I see people failing or as a reason for failing is so scared to be vulnerable and so scared to tell somebody that they don't know the answer or how to do something. And part of it's changing the culture of if you don't tell people how they can help you, they don't know how to help you. So I'm interested in your take in is vulnerability something that is talked about in the classroom from a business standpoint?
Well, first, let me go back to that point and say, we think the data says that the number one reason that people fail in business is because they run out of cash. And I would suggest that if you really look at the data, it says they run out of cash because they don't know how to manage the cash. And so I think the number one reason, and I've seen this in the expensive textbooks, which we don't use because they're so expensive, but I think the number one reason people fail in business is because they don't know what they don't know. And that's why if you try it again the second or third time, we have the serial entrepreneur. Those people, they figured it out and they know what they need to pay attention to. So it goes back to failure. I don't want to be vulnerable. And then when I fail, I want to withdraw. And, you can't tell somebody not to feel a certain way. Years ago, they had this thing called Marriage Encounter. And you would go and you'd write notes to each other back and forth and things like that for 3 days. One of the things I learned in that was feelings are neither good nor bad. They just are. And I tell my students, when you write in your papers how you feel, I can't really argue that. I can argue an opinion. I can argue a position, but I can't argue a feeling because they're real to you. They may not support this argument but I can't argue that. So do we talk about vulnerability? Yeah, well, because we look at vulnerability from a faith perspective. We look at it and say, I believe you have another source of inspiration. You have another person standing with you. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. I will never leave you nor forsake you. So you have that solid foundation. I just interviewed a gentleman who was in prison, and God really turned his life around, not necessarily through spiritual things, but through some of his reading and just getting perspective. And he came out, and then he ended up going back to his faith. And I'm not sure if I'm supposed to talk about his role or not, but he's in a very influential role now in his community. And he said that I was talking about vulnerability, just being able to be honest with your failure and recognize that is really the first step to move forward with that. And sometimes people are not able to be transparent at that. When he brings people in now and he has people that he works with who've been incarcerated or have been their junior young men and women, unless they're willing to be honest about the fact that they failed, he's not going to work with them. But also it's having support. So he talked a lot about, you have the support of people. So even though you screwed up, so where's the support? You're trying to, in a virtual way with Startwheel, provide support. You've got the mentor. I saw the mentor list this morning, a lot of really super people on there, but I've got to ask for that. And really what should happen maybe in your program is where you say, look, we're not giving you money unless you have a mentor. We're not going to give you, this resource unless you need to talk to that person, because then that person's going to help you, whether you think you need them or not. You do, unless you're, doing this very successfully without the help. And even then you still may need someone. You either should be mentoring someone or have a mentor, right? That's kind of the responsibility of our lives, is pouring in and pouring out, right?
I mean, there's just so many opportunities by just raising your hand. And I think so many people, for whatever reason, I guess it's just being timid, shy, scared of the unknown, of raising your hand and seeing where that thing can go. But,
I think it's you, Zack. I think people are scared of you because you have such a strong personality. I'm teasing a little. Am I allowed to tease on the video here?
You can tease as much as you want. I mean, if you want to see strong personality, let me show you this
I
next.
don't have hair, so I'm not scary. If I had hair, I'm sure I'd be scary.
Well, I mean, the hair used to be like spiked up like crazy, and then I was like, I got my COVID hair on. I got my. At first, I was like, let's just see how long, and then I was like,
my own hair for a while. My wife said, "Listen, I don't care COVID or not. You better stop that. It's kind of ugly."
I think Tim's hair is longer than mine.
No, it's not.
It's not.
No.
Oh. So, what got you into what? How do you use running to help you in life and in business?
It's awesome. Just listen to sermons. I started a new book this morning, Financial Intelligence, which is kind of cool. Terry Hall, Terry recommended it. He works with entrepreneurs up at the ODU Center. Just, try and listen to something, listen to music, just pray. And as you get older, you need times of reflection, times to kind of rethink, reimagine where we're going. Let's get started. What did I do wrong? What can I do differently? How can I get a head start on that? Getting up early. We're up 4:30 every day, and
4:30 even when the sun changes in the winter.
We sleep in on the weekends. We sleep till 6:30. But my wife and I are both up. She used to be boss at a family maternity center at one of the local hospitals, had 107 people reporting to her. So she'd have to be on the floor by 6 or 6:30. So we're up early. We walk a couple miles. I'll maybe run another couple miles. And, you guys run, you know what this is. It's after a while, it's not about, it's about exercise, but it's really about the mind. It's about discipline. It's about aligning things.
Yeah, it's funny. This morning, I read over and over and over again. Don't email should not be one of the first things that you check in the morning. I made the mistake today. Checked email. Something really kind of irritated me. Fired off a response. I went out for my run. I came back and I was like, I don't even remember what the heck I was mad at, or not mad, but I don't even remember what bothered me before I even left. So it's such a great place to clear the mind. And
did you have like a world record pace, or was it?
No. Sometimes though, it depends on the level of irritation, but.
That's right. I might go another time around Lake Christopher if it's really bad, but usually it's only a couple times.
I don't have social on my phone. So people think that that's crazy.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm just like, I don't. Like, I consume the things that I want to consume. And if something pops up on a feed, I'm not saying that I'm not on social, but if something pops up on that feed that I don't like, there's a nice little button that says unfollow. And guess what? I unfollow. And I think too many people don't do that. Mm-hmm. And it negatively affects their life. And it's just like, well, why wouldn't you just use that feed the same way you use your TV? If you don't like what you're watching, change the channel.
Right. We have a chat with our kids, so that's cool. We get to keep up with them. I think, again, it's this whole idea. What are you putting into your spirit? What are you putting into your mind? Putting in positive things, reading positive things. Another thing I think there's not enough, unless you're older and mature, what are the sources we go to that give us, the frame the way things really are, that we can really get perspective, and I don't think enough young people have that. I challenge them myself, who are you talking to? Who is helping you frame what's going on in the world? As we get a little bit more savvy, there are certain things that we read and people we talk to who help us. And we certainly don't want just to hear ourselves talk. I don't just want to listen to talking heads who agree with me. That's not good. I need to gain perspective, and that's where I value, other points of view. But I also need to be able to step back and say, whoa, what does this all mean? And get grounded. I'm fortunate to have lived as long as I have and gain perspective, but my hope is keep going, keep helping. I'm blessed to be here, be able to help students frame things. And that's what it's really about. What are we doing to help them? So as they move forward, they take advantage of opportunities that are in front of them, and they hear clearly in their mind and their heart what God is saying. And don't worry about all the noise that's around them.
You may know him as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I know him as just a man who has done incredible things for the last few decades. But how can you use his techniques in your business? I'll show you exactly how. Head on over to ZackMillerSays.com/The Rock, and you can smell what he's cooking.
That's great. I was waiting for I see the Rock picture over your shoulder. I was hoping we get a few minutes to say, yeah, it's good that you guys because you do look a lot alike, really.
Me and The Rock, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Zack and I.
Well, that too. He's an interesting guy, though, and I think people I have found that I am very unique in this, but I watch people and I watch material in the content that I would consume, and I say, okay, that's interesting. How could I potentially capitalize on what they just did and use in my own world, right? And so people look at The Rock and he'll say, oh, he was a wrestler, and now he's doing a movie star and things like that. But really, if you look at it from a grit and resilience perspective, it's like, here's some dude who had a goal of making it to professional football. It basically didn't work, and he had $7 in his pocket, and now he's done some pretty incredible things. Let's just say, I don't know what
some
Now we
magazine,
get football league.
Forbes, there was a story about him and his former wife, who now still works with him as his agent, and how they frame things. And he's at a point where he can influence a little bit more because of his credibility. I mean, Steve Harvey, the same thing. Was at the end of his rope. Again, I love redemption stories. They're my favorite stories. These people who are at the bottom, and through grit and prayer or whatever it might be. Certainly, I lean on the spiritual side, but to see them be able to now take their lives and to apply it and be effective in doing that, those are inspirations. That's what we need to tell our kids about. That's what this country is about, but certainly it provides a lot more opportunity for those kind of people. Those are the stories I want to tell people.
Yeah, and that's and Zack mentions it in his book, and that was part of the things that inspired me is to take an inventory of your day to see where and how you are spending your time, and to Zack's point earlier, eliminating the things that are not making you happy and focusing on the things that are. And it's super valuable. So people should really take that inventory of your life and how you're spending your time and make the most of it.
Amen.
Great quote there.
Let's quote Zack. And you can get Zack's book at the following outlets. I have a copy right there. I can see it right from here.
You can get them at
some of it. Once you disappeared, there was no. I come up and kiss up to you, Zack, and I was going to say, "Hey, I read your book. Boy, I was so moved by the." But then you disappeared. I was like, I don't know. I'll read.
It does. It's. I think another weakness that a lot of people have is, by building someone up and helping someone else celebrate their wins, it doesn't make you look weak. It's not making you less of a person. But yeah, I would like to me, nothing makes me happier than seeing somebody win. And I wish that we helped celebrate other people's wins more.
Right. There's a skill that I have learned that I use all the time. Affirmation is what I do. And there's a couple models. The traditional team model, forming, storming, norming, and performing. And that second level, forming, storming, we tear people down, bring it down to their lowest common denominator is how that usually works. That's why we have to have conflict management training. Years ago, I learned the Sandler sales technique, very low key, very much you're going to help me because, you're okay and I'm not okay type of thing. And I kind of use that a little bit with affirmation, but you see affirmation, there's another model for teaming that I look at, and it's, it's introduction, it's kind of getting to know people, and then it's affirmation. It's looking out at them and saying, wow, you really understand these things, and I don't understand it. So I wonder if you could help me. It's a little Sandler, and it's a little affirmation. And I've used it, in heated meetings where people were kind of losing control and stuff like that. And I use it all the time now. The problem is I know I could use it in a manipulative way, but I try not to. And that's why I'm always hearing people's story, because I just say, wow, that's really interesting. How did you get into that? And suddenly they feel like you're their friend and they want to tell you their story. But I agree. I think, there's always opportunity to say, wow, that was really great that you gave that try or that speech. But I mean, not just an attaboy, but something very directed and personal. Again, I admire Zack and all the work he's done. Tim, I don't know you as well, but we talked before about the Hatch effort, and that really pulled things together in the region. It was critical to get started what's going on now. And I think a lot of the benefit that we've seen and the Start Wheel is able to capitalize on is because of Zack's persistence and seeing this gap. He's got a vision. You have a vision, Zack, and that's important for people. A lot of people will follow that because you're inspiring to them.
That's right. And to that end, I'm the first person to share the same viewpoint and acknowledge that Zack played a big part. It doesn't make Start Wheel any less. If it wasn't for Zack, a lot of this would not have happened. So giving credit to where credit is due is a big thing.
Is this where you guys come in and buy me a car? And here's your car. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, coffee. How about coffee?
Coffee's good. You know what's interesting is when you talk about Regent and how it was a little bit easier because you guys had all these, you had a lot of this stuff already in place. I feel like that's really good planning on your part and really innovating on things where maybe individuals or businesses or universities or programs weren't necessarily innovating. They were just waiting, right? And I think a lot of people just wait. I've said this, I think, every single week since we started this show, and I think this is episode 24 or 25. I believe that COVID is really just there are terrible things with COVID, but when you really look at it from a business perspective, it's an acceleration of things that were going to happen anyway 7 years earlier. And so how does someone actually implement things that aren't necessarily the thing right now, but are going to be the thing right now?
So that's right. You're living in two businesses. You're living in the one that you're operating and the one you want to operate. What's the future going to look like? What's down the road? So it's always, Jim Carroll, always be selling, always be closing, his classic line. So where are we going as a market? How are we reading the tea leaves of what the future looks like? But I agree with you, Zack. I think COVID only, it solidified changes that were happening in the market, and we came up short in a lot of areas. If a business failed, it was doomed to fail, not necessarily, but certainly if there was opportunity for it to reformat, realign, that creative destruction that Joseph Schumpeter talked about was happening. I mean, look at what's happened. Like you said, some of the businesses that have grown, people are driving through and they're picking up, and a lot of really cool things. Office space, all of a sudden we're going to have all kinds of office space there. Maybe we were fat and happy with how things were, and so the creative destruction came along. I think it's probably, pre-crisis management planning. What if, the electricity shut down? What if a hurricane came through and, boom, we lost everything? How would we still do business? What would business look like? There's a great video that we show our students where the guy is in a utility and he says, how do we make money? There's only three ways we make money. We sell more, we raise our prices, or we cut our costs, right? And he says in a utility, you can't do any of those because your prices are managed. If you try and raise them, you got to go through all these hearings. If you sell less, then people are going to say you're ripping them off. If you charge less, saying you're ripping them off this whole time, and they're going to reduce, governmentally, your prices or what's allowed of your costs. So, and he says we do scenario planning. And so if any one of these scenarios were to develop, how would we react? And I think that's really what we need to do. We need to do scenario planning and not wait for the hurricane, but imagine it's next door and say, okay, when it comes, so then you're ready.
Powerful.
Well, thanks. I'm glad.
No, I mean, I think it is. I mean, look,
all week. So come back.
Well, there's only one day left. So, I mean, it's not a lot of days.
What else you got for me?
I think that's it. I think this has been tremendous. I think it's been great. I mean, I love these hours every week. It's always fun. So, Joe, I appreciate it. Tim?
Yeah, I appreciate it as well. It's the quickest hour of my week, and this one has been no different.
Great. Well, thanks for asking. Happy to serve you guys. Praying for you both, for your roles, because you have tremendous influence and opportunity. Where there's great power, there's great responsibility.
That is true.
If someone was interested in learning more about you or Regent University, where would you send them?
I have a Twitter, @re_redemption, which is about our the book and the redemption stories that we do, or Regent University, Joe Bucci @regent.edu. They can send me an email, or we have carrier pigeons here. They're kind of quiet right now, but just send your pigeon to my pigeon, and we'll exchange information.
And maybe it's like bell bottoms, and they'll make a comeback tour.
That's right. You mean I brought these out too early? Is that what you're saying? You can't see my bell.
Well, I mean, there actually is a local company, Drone Up, that is they're actually in Vegas right now. I don't know if you guys have actually. We should get them on the show.
They sound very well.
Yeah, so they Tim, I don't know if you saw this, but they are testing dropping COVID test from a Walmart parking lot to people's homes in Las Vegas. So there's literally contactless. So that's pretty cool. And they're based, I think, in Virginia Beach or Chesapeake right here. So those pigeons could be drones, I guess. So
there you go.
Joe, appreciate your time. Tim, always good to see you. And we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, y'all.